So I was, you know, I don't know if I want to go into this or not, because I kind of like the dude. So I know all you guys know Keith Kelfus, and you know he does, you know, the well, he does videos, y'all know, you know, how-to videos, if you will, to run a business, how to get more customers, how to, and all that. I saw a clip yesterday, and it kind of just made me really think. You know, him and Brian over there at Brian's Lawn Maintenance, they buddies, and Brian said, you know, him and Brian were doing an intro, I guess, on Keith's video, and where he was, you know, pricing a $13,000 job. And that's great, man, you know, and I like Keith. I think Keith's a smart dude. So at the intro of the video that Keith did, I guess yesterday or the day before, trying to think, him and Brian at Brian's Lawn Maintenance were in the intro, and Brian was saying, oh, this guy Keith, he's got a big landscape business, a big successful landscape business. You know, and that really resonated with me for no reason. You know, I don't have nothing against either one of those guys. I know they both work hard and all that, but I don't know how you can have a big, you know, what I would consider, and maybe it's about perception, what I would consider big, you know, successful landscape business when you don't even own a lawnmower. You don't own nothing. You know, I don't see how, and you know, hey, I got a disclaimer, and I'm just a hick, and ain't really got no sense, but I don't see how in the world you can be, you know, a solo operator, or, you know, a two or three man operation, and be super successful and not own anything, no equipment at all. I mean, dudes doing X-Mark commercials don't even have a lawnmower, you know. I don't know about all that. It's really about the YouTube stuff. So I went into the comments over, and I said, well, how do you have a super successful landscape? I ain't saying you can't be successful with renting equipment, but the ultimate goal to me, and I might be wrong, like I said, the ultimate goal is to be in charge of my own destiny, to be in charge of what jobs I take, when I take them, how I do them, what, you know, and, you know, you have to invest in your business. And I just want to point this out, and I'm not bashing Kelfus or nothing. You know, I don't know him or nothing. I met him up at the GIE, but and he probably remembers it, but it doesn't matter. So after watching that intro, you know, I made a comment in there, and I'm like, you know, I don't know how you're super successful and you don't own nothing. I mean, dude owns he got a brand new truck, which is, you know, I don't know if that's a good move or a bad move. I don't know. And he owns, you know, some chainsaws and a dump trailer, and some, you know, rakes and shovels and ladders and pole saws and stuff. But he doesn't own any big landscape equipment, anything. Not even a Chinese mini $4,000, you know, piece of equipment, you know. But he has the aura of a super successful landscaper. I don't see how. You know, I think that a lot of times these guys that do the YouTube, and they're popular on YouTube, is they do produce pretty good content, that they get it all twisted and begin to think that they're great, you know, successful landscape businesses. And I'm not a great successful landscape business. I'll be the first to say I do okay, but I don't claim to be great, and, you know, all that. But you have to invest in your business, and I don't see this guy investing in the landscape business. But if you'll notice, and nothing wrong with this, you'll notice that he has all the latest camera gear, lighting, microphones, all the stuff it takes to be a successful YouTube guy. And hey, and I guess he probably does pretty good. He probably does a lot better on YouTube than he does in the landscape world. But to call himself a super successful, for Brian, Brian's, y'all know Brian, to call himself a super successful business, landscape business, is ridiculous. I mean, at least to me, and maybe I'm wrong, I mean, I could be wrong, Keith. I mean, but I doubt it. So I made a comment, and then I guess one of his followers or somebody came back in the comments and was saying, you can be really successful renting equipment and all. And I understand that you can. I understand. You can be, right? But not a solo operator. You're not going to be able to do jobs that somebody that owns the equipment can do. You're not. And I don't know, and we can go back into the rental versus owning discussion, if you will. Renting equipment is just a stepping stone to owning the equipment, really. Now, if you're a multi-billion-dollar, multi-million-dollar business, and you're doing big government contracts, roadways, and stuff like that, well, it doesn't apply because the money is so abundant. It doesn't matter. But I'm talking to the average guy like me, the average solo 1 or 2 man operation. That's who I'm talking about. Just like Keith is. But the guy came in the comments and he was saying that, it was really, all you do, and this is like, it's real simple. All you do is just mark, 15 to 20%, and charge it to the customer. I get all that, y'all. I mean, I understand that. But why do I want to give 15 to 20% of the profit away when I don't have to? That 15 or 20% will cover the cost of the machine. Well, Ray, you got to be doing enough work for all that. Right, and if you have to rent equipment, you're probably not going to be doing as much work because it's such a hassle. It is. It's a hassle to rent, at least where I'm at. You get equipment and it don't run right. You're not used to it. You got to, there's all kinds of things that come up. I've rented equipment over and over and over again, and that's why I'm so anti-rental. Because it's always something going on with the stupid equipment, and it's a different piece of equipment every time you rent one. Of course, if you own the machine, you're gonna market toward that work, so you're gonna get more work because you're gonna be open to receiving more work. If you have to go through the rental, then I'm talking about for me. If I have to go through the rental process, and I'm thinking that job, like for instance, that big saw job I just did. 14 grand for everything that we did over there. If I had to go rent all that equipment, do you understand or have any idea the magnitude of the expenses that would be? If I had to go rent the skid, I had to go rent the flat bucket, I had to go rent the grapple bucket, I had to go rent the power rake, I had to go rent the stump grinder, I had to go rent. And true enough, you can charge that to the customer, but I do the same thing and I don't have to rent nothing. It's like, especially on a job like that where you're doing so many different things to get a results. I don't even see how anybody can say with a straight face that renting is better than owning. I'm talking about the small time guy with 1 or 2 employees, maybe 3 employees, a couple trucks or whatever. It ain't even close. And a lot of what people don't factor in when they're talking all this to me, is they don't factor in what I deem to be the most important thing of all: downtime. Time I'm not on the job. Time I'm running down a stump grinder from a rental yard. You're not in control of nothing. There's enough things out here that you're not in control of already. The weather, the customers, budget, all those, and a lot of other little things that I could go into that make the video super long. So when I can be in control of something, that's what I want. Just think, I don't know, just think if you had to go rent a stump grinder, you rent it and it rains for 2 days. Well, first of all, you got to find a rental yard that's going to rent you a stump grinder, in my area anyway, that's going to rent you a stump grinder to go on the front of a skid steer. It ain't a normal rental. Now, you can get the one, well, Ray, I can rent a stump grinder and I can walk behind it, I can grind them something. You ain't going to, yeah. You ever rented one of those ones you hold on to? About the good as you're going to get at a rental yard is a unit like Randall rented last year when he did a bunch of those stumps over there at one of them big properties last winter. I think it's a Toro Dingo or whatever. Now, yeah, but that's equipment. And these guys that claim to be super successful in the landscape business don't own no equipment. They don't even own one of them. And they're what, $10,000? I don't know. But it just, if you're renting, the cost of renting goes way beyond how much money you give the rental yard. If that was all you had to do, it might be worth it. But the problem is, like with the job that I've just did, how much is it going to cost you to rent all that stuff? To rent a power rake? Oh, how available are the power rakes? That's a question. That's a problem, because they're not readily available to any from anywhere. Oh yeah, they got one, Ray. It's over in Carrollton, 60 miles from you. You can run over there and pick it up and rent it, and you can bring it back to one of our local ones. Now you're talking about time. And oh yeah, Ray, we got 3 skid steer stump grinders, but they're all out. They won't be back until next week or May 15th or whatever. What do you do then? See, when people are pro rental, they're not talking about none of that. They're talking about the actual money cost, the actual money that comes out of your pocket to pay the rental yard. They're not talking about the time. The time is bigger than the money part of what you have to pay the rental yard. Though the rental yard, if you try to, we got to rent a skid. Oh, well, when you rent a skid from the rental yard, you better be on task with it. You better not be slipping. It better not rain. It better not, you better not have to have a long lunch. You better have everything on the job, because when that day's over, you got to take it back. We'll rent it for a week, Ray. Okay, now you're talking about, $2,000, $3,000. I don't know what it costs to rent for a week. I can find out. I've never rented one for a week. Oh, so now you got it for a week. Oh, well, now you gotta, how are you gonna grind those stumps? Oh, you're not gonna do the stumps. Okay, so somebody else gonna get that money. How are you gonna get the trees down? Oh, well, somebody else is gonna get that money too. Oh, well, then why? I don't need you if I'm the homeowner. Why do I need you if you can't do anything and you got to rent everything, when this guy right here, he's got everything in his shop ready to go on the trailer on the way to my house to do the job, not running down rental equipment. And I'm talking about for the small timer, and that's what I am. But my profits are really good for what I do. Well, Ray, man, that skid might sit for 2 or 3 months at a time. Yeah, but it's always on standby, and it never sits that long, unless I want it to. The attachments. You can't just go rent the attachments that I have. I hate to tell you guys that. I know that a lot of guys think that, especially guys that do a lot of the, the very lucrative snow removal and stuff up north. They rent the equipment. They'll rent the damn skid for the whole winter. I'd rather own it. Well, Ray, I just charge the customer. I want that money too. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand how it's such a debate, really, for the small timer. There's so many things. What about the concept of, okay, rental's great, the rates are great, but every time you rent a machine, you're getting a different unit. So you never really get super efficient on any said unit. Well, they're all the same, right? But they're not. Every piece of equipment is like a person. It has its own unique tendencies, you know, and when you own the machine, you know all those tendencies. What would you do if you're renting equipment and somehow you got all the attachments that I have to the job? Now you're out another, you know, I don't know, probably $800 or $900 a day just for the attachments. Better hope it don't rain. So now you got, you know, $700 or $800 a day, and that's if you can haul the skid. If not, you're at $1,000 a day probably to rent a skid like mine if they bring it to you, and that's just with a bucket. So now you're at $2,000 a day to have all the, well, you don't have to rent all this stuff at one time. Okay, so now, okay, you're right, you don't. So now how do you get all the attachments to the job? Because you didn't have the ability to haul the skid steer to the job. So how are you going to get the attachments to the job? You're going to have to either take a lawn trailer or whatever trailer you got to the rental yard and get the stuff, and, you know, the stump grinder, the brush cutter, the power rake, the grapple bucket, all these things are extra rentals. You don't just automatically get that. In my area, when you rent a skid, you get like a flat bucket or a tooth bucket. That's it. So you can see, and I don't know if I'm explaining it, you can see the logistics of what a nightmare that would be if you were on a job like what I'm on. Oh, and the rental yard is only, 25 miles, 20 miles from the job. That affects the number. I mean, the benefits of owning are what's the downfall? Oh, well, you got a payment. Right. Right. But I can make that payment based on the 15 to 20% you're charging the customer. I can use that money to make the payment and then pay the labor. And at some point, I'm going to outright own the machine. Now, it might be too old and raggedy by the time I get there, but I'm making money. I'm making money, streamlined, making money the whole time. Also, I'm able to sell the machine too. So at the end of the day, it ain't even, I mean, I bought my Bobcat T190 for 20 grand. I sold it for 17. 4 years later, a couple $100,000 in my pocket. You know, I mean, that's a fact. Renting it, you're never going to own nothing, and you're not going to make as much money either. You're going to make less money. You're not going to be in control of the jobs. You can't even tell the customer exactly what day you're going to start it, because you don't know when you're bidding the job. Oh, I'll have to get back with you on that. Meanwhile, Ray done creeped in the back door. Yeah, I'll be over here tomorrow. I can come Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock. You know, with everything it takes to do the job. Who they gonna hire? My number is probably more friendly than your number because I don't have to pay for a rental. My profits are definitely better. And I mean, I don't, maybe I'm missing something, you know, I don't know. But to debate whether it's better to own the equipment or rent the equipment, and it has a lot to do with what you're doing. You know, if I knew that if I was a part-timer out here and I had a 9 to 5 and I'm just getting into this, then okay. Even if I'm a full-timer out here and I'm just getting into the skid steer game, okay. But the goal is to own the equipment eventually. It ain't to perpetually pay rent. It makes as much sense as it does to pay rent on a property. I don't like to pay rent. I think it's backwards. You know. But I have paid rent, and I hope I don't ever have to do it again, but I could, you know. But to debate it is like, man, are you serious, dude? Do you really believe that? I don't know. But the debate continues, y'all. Y'all not gonna see me do a whole lot of equipment rental. I'm not saying I won't, but if I do enough work with the equipment, I'm gonna own it. Oh, that mud, man. Make sure my tire don't slide off. And that's just my, that's just my personal opinion. And I ain't got nothing against Kelpis, I mean, I'm just pointing out the obvious. Just because somebody is, a motivating YouTube speaker and a motivating kind of guy, and he is, I'll give him that, but to call himself a very successful landscape business is well, I guess he could be. Maybe there's a lot that I don't know. I don't see it though. I see a very successful YouTuber. I see that, but it ain't my business. I mean, I'm just pointing out that just because somebody is really popular on YouTube, don't mean that their Operation Moto is the way to do things, and it don't mean mine is either. So.